The self-improvement guide. How to change your identity. If you've clicked on this video, you're probably a person who wants to change as a person and who believes that there's more potential in your life than society's path is promising you. And I assume if you found my channel and this video, you are probably a person who's probably low confident and who is never part of the cool kids. And you probably also have a desire inside of yourself to improve and to break out of mediocrity in a way that your peers and your family doesn't have. And this sometimes makes you feel like the lone wolf. If some of these things resonate with you, this video here will make it click for you. Because these are all things that I went through or still am going through. And once I learned this content from my mentor, it also made click for me. You will understand why you always get the same results even though you're working your ass off. And you will also understand why you still don't feel confident and why people also don't treat you as a confident person even though you're already doing all these confident body language hacks, etc. You probably know all the tricks, and so do I. And you might have heard like similar promises, and you might have heard similar promises like that, and you might think this is just some marketing BS. If you give this a chance and you really try this out, then you will have the key that you really need to change who you are as a person and to change your identity. Because for the longest time, I myself, if you follow this channel, you probably know it, I myself wasn't happy with who I am as a person, and I wasn't happy with the results that I had and where I stood in life, and still am standing in life because this is an ongoing process. And yes, as I said, these steps or the things that I will share in this video like really made it click for me. And yes, I wanted to share this content with you. So I hope you will enjoy the video. And yes, if you have any questions to this topic, because this might go any deeper or might go deeper than the other videos, feel free to ask me in the comments and I will reply to you as best as I can. First of all, before you watch the video, here's my definition of personal development. Personal development means to become a new person. It does not mean being the same person with more muscles or with like a bigger portfolio of stocks or whatever. Or not being a person who's able to meditate for longer. It's about who you are and who you become, and not about what you own. And people fail because they try to make their current version of themselves successful, and they don't realize that they have to become another person and have to become the person that is able to achieve their goals. Because here's the fact, the person that you are today will not achieve his goals. I have goals, of course, and the person I am today isn't able to achieve these goals. I won't achieve these goals if I don't transform and change constantly. Okay, and what I also did is I divided this content into 7 main parts, because first of all it seemed logically for me, it made sense. And second of all, then you have because I will create timestamps for you so you can watch certain parts again if you forget it or want to watch it again. So yes, enjoy the video. Society's paradigm and how it restricts your development. So before we start, we have to understand what society's paradigm is, because it's very likely that society's paradigm is also your paradigm, because we have been told and taught this paradigm our whole life. So what does society tell us who we are as a person? So society tells us you are who you are and your identity cannot be changed. Since we were born, we have been told that we have a certain identity, that we are who we are and that we cannot do anything about it. And we've also been told that our identity, so the person that we are, lies in our DNA. We have certain characteristics and we just accept them as reality. For example, I'm the person who's good with languages, or I'm the person who's not good with languages. I'm the shy kind of person. I'm just not the person who's disciplined. I'm not the person who's good with people, who's not good with talking. Whenever you find yourself saying something like this, like these statements about yourself, what you're doing is you're accepting a static identity and you're defining yourself as this person. However, accepting a static identity makes improvement impossible, because what do you tell yourself? You're subconsciously telling yourself that your current identity defines your limits. If you're not the person who's good with languages, then you will never learn a language, because you're simply not good at it. If you're not the person who's disciplined, you won't go to the gym, you won't, again, learn a language, because all of this needs discipline. You won't eat clean, because it's impossible for you because you aren't the person who's disciplined. Okay, and the next thing is very important, and this is something that I learned from my mentor, and I want you to pay attention to this. Everything that you would call, this is me, this doesn't exist. It is just an illusion. All it is it's a product of your past experiences and not reality. Holding on to your current identity and to the person that you are today means holding on to the past and to past experiences. But I want you to understand something which I also learned from my mentor, and which also like opened my eyes, is the past doesn't exist anymore. The past isn't real. However, your ego and my ego, they want us to believe that the past is real. So we hold on to our current identity because, again, this makes change impossible. And this is also why society's paradigm is so dangerous, because it programs us to believe that we have a static identity, and it programs us to hold on to past experiences and to hold on to the person we were yesterday, because this makes change impossible. This is why society's programming and society's paradigm is so dangerous. Part 2, your new paradigm. So, okay, if your current paradigm and so the paradigm of society is not good, what should be your paradigm? And your new paradigm should be led by the following thought. The person who you are, aka your identity, is not static. It is a product of your thoughts and your actions. And you also want to change the question from who am I, because this is a very defining question, very static identity question, towards who am I going to be? Because before we talk about okay, how you can transform your identity and work on your identity and become every person that you want to be, you have to realize that you become every person that you want to be, that you can transform your identity. So this means the person that you are today and the person that you think you are today is also just an illusion. Your current identity is an illusion, as strange as this might sound. This illusion is created by the ego because we hold on to the past, as I said earlier. Before we can change, the steps are, all the things we have to do is we have to realize that change is possible, and we have to stop holding on to past experiences and or to our past identity. Also want to end every part with a little learning, like a little, which is a little summary in one sentence or a couple sentences, and I will read these learnings out for you. So the learning for the first and second part comes now. Learning. We believe that the past experiences define who we are. Remember, the past experiences do not define who we are. Dismiss these past experiences. They just mark one certain point in your conscious time span that you call life. You've also been told that your current identity is who you are. That's a lie. Your current identity doesn't exist and isn't real. It is simply a product of holding on to past stories. Part 3. How your identity is built. So if we want to work on our identity and change our identity, we have to understand how our identity is built in order to reconstruct it. So this is what comes now. First of all, I want to very quick introduce you to a term called paradigm. In case you don't know what a paradigm is, I will define it very quick. A paradigm, and our paradigm is basically our worldview, and our paradigm is closely connected to our reality, and our reality is the sum of our beliefs that we have about the world. And our identity are the sum of the beliefs, of all our beliefs about ourselves and about our role in our reality in this world. And a little disclaimer, yes, there might also be other definitions, way smarter definitions or better definitions, but just so everybody has like an easy understanding of what I mean with reality, identity, and paradigm, we can go with these definitions. So what are, for example, beliefs about ourselves? So beliefs that could build our identity. So I, for example, believed for a long time, and I still have these beliefs in the back of my mind, I have to admit, is that people don't like me, and that people don't listen to what I have to say, and that I simply don't belong. So in my mind, this was the person who I was, and also like where I stood in this world, like the place I had in society. Yeah, and the next thing is important because these beliefs are built or created and reinforced by experiences we make in this world, in our world. So what were, for example, the experiences that I had, as an example? Of course, I don't remember like the earliest experiences, but I can tell you some experience where I was older. I remember this one time when I, for example, said something and wanted to take part in a conversation, and nobody even listened to me. Like literally nothing, like not even turning a head or anything. They were just treating me like air, or like I was non-existing. Yes, and more about this later, and a little bit more about paradigms. Again, we see the world through our paradigm, which can best be described as like a filter. And yes, a filter lets certain things through, and it doesn't let other things through. Usually it lets only things through that reinforce our worldview. And this is also why it's hard to change our identity, how we experience the world and how our beliefs are built. So if I ask you, okay, how do you experience the world? The answer is simple. You would just say, okay, through your senses, like hearing, tasting, seeing, etc. And this is correct. Like only because of your senses you get an idea about your surroundings and like an idea about the world, what it looks like, what the world is. However, these senses, what the organs do is not like directly experiencing the world through these senses or through your organs. What these organs do is they do not create a perception, they create information, and this information is sent to our brain. So what then happens is your brain receives these objective information from your surroundings, and first filters them, as I said, and interprets them. Thereby, it creates the perception and the way we view our world. So knowing that, we can say, okay, our perception of the world, the way we see the world, is not objective, but it's subjective. And now the following thing is like also very important, and this was like mind-blowing for me when my mentor told this to me. So I learned that your brain cannot differentiate between reality and fiction. So this means it cannot tell whether an experience you make in this world is real or not, and simply interprets them as if they would be real, like all of them. Even though if they are not reality, it will still be perceived as real for you. And another important thing is that we have to understand that we receive information from 3 different sources. First of all, when we like make a new experiences in the now, like right now, if I make a new experiences, this is an information. But I also receive new information by memories of the past, so thinking about past experiences and imagining and visualizing future experiences. Your brain also cannot differentiate between these 3 experiences, and all of them are rated the same. So a memory of a past experiences, so if you just think about the past and the past experiences, is as influential for you as if you would make a experience right now. Have you ever like thought about a situation in the past and realized that you felt the exact same emotion as you felt in that situation? Of course you have, because thinking about an emotion in the past, or not an emotion but a situation in the past, has the same effect on your brain as actually experiencing it, like right now. And also imagining or thinking about a future experience is also as influential as making an experience right now. And this might not sound like as fascinating to you, but it is really important to understand this if we later learn how our beliefs are built and how we can influence this process. So a very brief summary about the past couple of things that we learned. So we experience the world through our senses, and these senses, our organs, send information to our brains. And because our brain filters and interprets these informations aren't, or our perception of reality is not objective but subjective. And this means that our experiences that we make are also subjective. So, and the other thing is that our brain cannot differentiate between fiction and reality. And we also learned that we can like experience or gain experiences or make experiences from 3 sources, like in the now, like right now, making experiences, about thinking about past experiences, and imagining future experiences. And also our brain cannot differentiate between these 3. And what we have to understand is that also past experiences and thinking about future experiences aren't reality, they are fiction. Okay, for example, let's say you once spoke up in class and your teacher like shuts you down like brutally because the teacher was an asshole. This is a negative experience like right now, and it becomes an experience in the past. Now you think that if you speak up again in class, this will happen again, and you always think about this past experience over and over again, and you imagine if you speak up that this will happen. This is exactly what will happen. So once we have the current experience, later if you think about it, or if the kid in school thinks about it, he also has the past experiences, and if he imagines speaking up again and imagines being shut down again, he also has the future experiences. So if he does this long enough, and if he thinks about it long enough, this will create the belief that this kid, for example, isn't worthy of speaking up, that his opinion doesn't matter, and that he's also not accepted in class, or at least not accepted by this teacher. And this could become a very, very strong belief for this kid. So, and this is also like, and this is important because this is really how our beliefs are built, through experiences. If we make experiences and like similar or the same experience over and over again, this will create a belief. We create the belief that we think, or we believe that this is what the world is like. Like, this is me, or this is how people treat me. This is how people will react to me. For example, if you ever have thoughts like, okay, this is me, this is how people react to me, etc., these are just simply beliefs. And now you know that these beliefs came from some experience that you had in the past. So this here is the key essence of this whole video, or one of the key essence. Your experiences create your beliefs. And as we said, the beliefs, or the sum of the beliefs, create your identity. So your experiences create your beliefs, and your beliefs create your identity. So yes, this is it. This is like the process, how, like, very broken down, how our identity is built. The cascade is experience, belief, identity. Now it becomes also more and more obvious how we can transform our identity and form a new identity. But first I want to mention that we said earlier that our experiences are subjective, which also means that our beliefs about ourselves are subjective, which also means that our identity, the person that we think we are, is subjective. So now the picture becomes maybe a bit clearer why I say that the person who you are isn't real and doesn't exist, and why it is just an illusion. Because it all comes from experiences, and all these experiences aren't objective, they are subjective. In case you don't really believe me, I want to give you like a little example, and I hope this will help you to understand this. Okay, for example, have you ever seen in school or wherever a person who was overweight, and people really were bullying for him? This person made the experience on a daily basis that he was the fat guy. Yes, he went to school every day, or like 5 days a week, and over again every day people bullied him for it, and he made the experience that he was the fat guy over and over again. So at some point this experience is turned into a belief, and at some point this belief, because it was reinforced again and again, turned into his identity. He identified as the fat guy. Okay, and of course this wasn't very pleasant for him, so he decided to change something and go to the gym and eat more clean. And yes, he went to the gym. He went let's say he went almost every day, and of course, like, he lost some weight, but you couldn't really see he was still overweight. And of course, people would continue bullying him, so he would still make the same experiences, and nothing really would change about his identity. Weeks go by, months go by, maybe 1 year goes by, and he was very consistent in the gym and also consistent with his diet, and you really see some change. He isn't the fat guy anymore. He just lost like a lot of weight. Objectively, he's not the fat guy anymore. And yeah, people aren't calling him names anymore. Maybe sometimes here and there they would call him names and call him the fat guy, even though he isn't anymore. So he basically doesn't like get all these negative experiences anymore, especially when he meets new people who haven't known him before. They probably do not call him fat or anything, because he isn't fat. So this person doesn't make any negative experiences anymore in the present. However, because he was bullied so much, he thinks about all these experiences about people bullying him for his weight and for his big stomach, that he thinks about it all the time. And especially if you can relate with this story and have been maybe overweight and bullied for it, you know that you still think about all these experiences, and you still identify as the fat person, even though you're not fat anymore. You look in the mirror and you only see the body parts of you that there might be some fat storages, even though these are completely normal or completely average. You wouldn't call somebody with these fat storages fat. Yes, and this is because, like I said earlier in the part when we talked about paradigm, it's like a filter that only lets through certain things that reinforce your worldview. And your worldview, or this guy's worldview, is that he's overweight, and that's why he only sees body parts where he has some stored body fat. So the professional term for this is RAS, reticular activation system, and this is responsible for you only focusing on some parts or some information that you receive from the environment, and you will only focus on the information that are important for you, because otherwise there are just too many informations. You probably have heard or seen the test where somebody asked you, okay, focus on everything that's red, then you have to close your eyes, and then he asks you about everything that's blue, and then you can't see it anymore. And if you open your eyes, you can see everything that's blue. That's why if you focus on one thing, the other things will get filtered out. This is the reticular activation system. And this is also why, even though if the person might be super skinny now, because it is his identity is, okay, I'm the fat guy, he will still think he's fat. He really actually thinks, okay, he's overweight. And that's also why you see people who were fat lose weight and almost are only skin and bone, and still want to lose weight because they truly believe that they are still overweight. Yeah, and I can imagine this might sound strange for somebody who hasn't had such an experience. For me, for example, I had a similar experience. I identified as the skinny and weak person who's also easy to push around, etc., who isn't really muscular, who can't really defend himself. This also was reinforced because I have a twin brother, and he was a couple of minutes older, but this was enough for him being he was always bigger, taller, and had more muscles than I had. So yes, this experience was also reinforced. I'm also not very tall, 177 centimeters. So also in school I was not part of the tall kids. Yeah, then I was also very skinny. So yes, and now since a couple of months or years, I just put on some muscles. I went to the gym, and lately people tell me, okay, man, you're not skinny. You're actually you have a huge back, like lat, and I almost can't believe it. It's so strange for me, because I still identify as the person who's skinny and who has no muscles, and people it's really two different worldviews. And yeah, so I had this experience myself. Yes, and I want to give you a third example, in case you still can't identify with this. And this is the story about the big elephant who's chained to some weak piece of wood or something, and he just doesn't escape. And of course the elephant is strong enough to just break this piece of wood immediately, but he doesn't. And the story says that when the elephant was a baby or a little kid, he was always chained to this piece of wood, and no matter how hard he tried, he couldn't escape. So he had the experiences and formed the beliefs, and there was the identity that this piece of wood is too strong for him and that he's too weak and he cannot escape. So once this big elephant is bigger, he doesn't bother anymore, he doesn't try anymore to escape. Part number 4, how you can create your new identity. So taking all that we have learned now, there are 5 steps that we have to take in order to change our identity and to become every person that we want to be. So first we have wanted identity. Second is wanted beliefs and wanted behavior. The third is implementation. The fourth is new experiences and new actions, so new positive references. And the fifth is basically your wanted identity becomes your new identity. These steps might sound very, very simple and insignificant, but they are super significant, and later if you take them seriously, they can change everything. like literally. And I learned this from my mentor, and I'm so grateful for that. And yes, I want to go into each point a little bit deeper now. The first step when you want to change your identity is changing your thoughts. And I'm not talking about law of attraction right now. We have to change our thoughts away from who am I to the thought, who am I going to be? What I mean by that is that we have to ask ourselves, okay, who do I want to be? What type of person do I want to become? So basically, what is your wanted identity? What identity do you want? So you first have to know that, of course, or obviously. The second step is wanted beliefs and wanted behavior. So now we have to ask ourselves, okay, I know what kind of person I want to be, or what kind of identity I want to have. For example, I want to be the cool kid, or I want to be the confident guy. Or I want to be the guy who's very productive, who's very good at speaking in front of camera. Let's say this is our wanted identity. Then we have to ask ourselves in the second step, okay, how does such a person think, and how does such a person behave? So aka, what are their beliefs and what are their behaviors? And yes, I get it. It's very likely that you don't know the answer for these questions like 100% correctly, because I mean, if you aren't the person, how should you know how a person would react, or how he would think, or what he would believe in every specific situation? If you aren't that person, you can't really know that for a fact. However, what you can do is you can first make assumptions, and second of all, you can also observe the people that are or have the characteristics that you want to have. How do they react in certain situations? Do they speak loudly? Do they speak quietly? Are they do they set boundaries, etc.? What do these people do? And what are the beliefs that these people probably have? He also probably believes that people won't reject him if he says something. And a person who's very, very productive is probably a person who wakes up early in the morning. This is behavior, and who believes that his fear of execution or fear of getting things done is just an illusion, and just an emotion that is meant to hold him in place. So probably he's a person who also does what he's afraid of. Okay, now the third step is implementations. Now we already know, okay, how a person that we want to be acts and how he thinks or what he believes. Now it's simple. Now we simply take the same actions and do the same things that a person that is where we want to be would do. We start acting like a person who's confident, and we start acting like a person who's productive, and try to mirror their behavior as closely as possible, and also to run their thoughts through our minds as often as possible. And here's a little disclaimer: if we implement these behaviors that are in alignment with the identity that we want to be, this can feel like incongruent or weird at the beginning, because your old identity is still usually stronger. Your old beliefs are still running through your heads, and they tell you that you aren't that type of person, and this is what makes it kind of weird. At this point, we simply think that we aren't the person who would act that way. But it is important to not listen to this emotion and still do it. And this is simply what is called, or what you probably know as fake it till you make it. And this is the whole process why fake it till you make it actually works. Okay, step 4. What is step 4? Is new experiences and new positive reference. By doing a new thing or acting in a new way, in a different way, the world will give us feedback. The people around us will react in a certain way to us. And this is important because these are the new experiences that we make. And guess what? Sometimes the world will give us negative feedback. People will react negatively to us, or will give us simply bad feedback. But this is not bad. This is good for us, because now we can learn from this, because this tells us that the behavior or the way we behave and the way we think probably doesn't match 100% with the person on the identity that we want to be. So what we do is we go back to step 2. We try to figure out, okay, what is the behavior of a person with our wanted identity, and we change our assumptions, and then try again step 3 and get feedback in step 4 again. So in a sense, if you want, a negative feedback doesn't really exist, because it's just feedback that helps us to learn and to change and implement new behaviors. So do not let negative feedback stop you. It is not bad. It's simply an indicator that your behavior might not be 100% correct. So if you optimize your behavior often enough, then this will lead to positive feedback and positive reference in step 4. And this is important because now we made a new experience and a new positive experience. For example, what could be the experience? For example, you acted more confident, you spoke loudly, and people would treated you like you're the person who was confident. Or you wanted to be the person who's productive, and you woke up early, and you realized that you get a lot of things done, and you're very in a flow and a focused state, and you were very productive. So this was a new experience. So step 5, this experience that you had now reinforces the our wanted and our wanted belief about ourselves. And thereby it also reinforces our wanted identity. And of course, one experience is usually not enough to form your identity around it. And yes, one experience is usually not enough to change your identity and to create a new identity. This is basically what step 5 is, reinforcing these thoughts and these beliefs. And this is by simply repeating the process, step 1 to step 4. Because if you will repeat the process often enough, you will make more and more positive references, and these references will reinforce your beliefs and thereby create your identity. When you act like the confident guy and everybody treats you like the confident guy, and you truly believe that you are the confident guy, then guess what? Then you actually are the confident and cool guy. And here's another little epiphany or a little story that I had, or I have. Because in school I always asked myself, okay, because I wasn't part of the cool kids, and I asked myself, okay, what do these kids have? And why are these people cool, and why am I not cool? Because I was a kid and I wanted to be cool. So I was really confused because I asked myself, okay, what makes them different from me? They weren't smarter than me. I had better grades. They weren't necessarily better looking than I was. Some of them were actually pretty ugly, in my opinion. And they also weren't as friendly as I was, and also not as concerned about the opinion of others, or how they make others feel, whether they make others feel bad, etc. Just to give you some example, there were also other things, and also some things that were better at than me. But I figured out that this isn't what matters. This isn't what makes you cool. The only thing that makes you cool and that made these persons cool, the thing that makes someone cool is not cool clothes or an expensive watch or something external. This is not what makes you cool. What makes you cool is you believing that you are cool. That's it. Whether you think you're cool or not will determine whether you are cool or not, and also will determine whether other people will think that you are cool or not. And here's a little lesson. People will always treat you according to your identity. Yes, and there you have it. This is the loop with which you can completely change your identity. Just follow these steps and do it over and over again. I myself am doing this, and I think this is also not a process that will ever end, because you can always increase or level up your personality. And yes, if you were a person that asked himself, okay, how can I change as a person, or how can I become this cool person, this confident person, this person who's good in front of a camera or whatever, you are now metaphorically the overweight person who asked himself, okay, how can I lose weight, and who was exactly handed the exact training routine how he can lose weight. Yes, and so here's the learning from this part. Learning. The person that you are today does not matter. Your weaknesses don't matter, and most certainly do not define your limits and who you are. The only thing that matters is what you believe. Through focused implementations, your beliefs will become your reality. However, we're still not done yet, because there's still a problem. Because this loop can also work against you. This loop is actually the reason why so many people hate themselves, and also people kill themselves, because of all the negative experiences that reinforce these negative beliefs, and that made them really believe, okay, they are bad persons, and they are persons who, for example, don't deserve to live. Part number 5, setting boundaries. Because now we can ask ourselves, okay, what about all these negative references that could jeopardize the identity that we want to have? Yes, this is a valid question, because it is in fact actually very important to protect yourself from negative references that would jeopardize the identity that you want to have. You do that by setting strict and clear boundaries, and you also do that by not accepting and not tolerating behavior from other people that would decrease your self-esteem, and that could also hurt the person and the identity that you want to be. I mean, these are basically both the same. setting boundaries is not tolerating like bad behavior from other people. And the reason why setting boundaries is so important, because if you do not set boundaries and don't have the balls to set boundaries, then other people will determine where you will end up in life, and other people will also determine what kind of person you will be like. And there's also like a term for it whenever you want to set boundaries, but you are too afraid to set boundaries because you don't want to be rude or something. Whenever you say yes, even though you mean no, this is called pleasing. And here's an example of pleasing. Of course, you get an example. Let's say maybe you are like me and you're still like living at home, and you're working on a project or you're working on your business, something important that you want to get done. Suddenly your mom comes into your room and asks you to go and buy groceries. And even though that you want to continue with your work, and because you have deadlines and because your work is important to you and you want to get shit done, you stop everything that you're doing and you go grocery shopping. This is pleasing. This is saying yes to your mom in this example, even though you mean no. And this topic of pleasing and setting boundaries is so important, and I also have like lots of trouble with it. But I'm not sure about you, but I for sure have to learn even more to say no to people and to protect my time. Setting boundaries will also increase your self-esteem, and yes, you will feel it like after you, for example, set a boundary and said no, if you meant no, you will immediately feel that it feels good and that your self-esteem increases. It increases because you're communicating to yourself and you're telling yourself that your desires and what you want is important. And this is also the reason why it decreases when you please. You're telling yourself that your desires aren't important, that the desires of other people are more important. Okay, furthermore, a high level of self-esteem will determine how other people will treat you. Because remember, people will always treat you in the most disrespectful way that you let them treat you. And usually, or like almost always, a person with high self-esteem will not tolerate poor behavior from other people. This means that the higher your self-esteem, the better people will treat you and the more positive experiences you will make. So what would be the right way to act when, for example, your mother comes in? What would be the way of setting boundaries? For example, you could say, "Thanks, mom, for reminding me. Right now I'm working on an important project and I don't have time for it. If I will have time, I will do it later. Right now I need the time for myself. Thanks, see you later." And yes, this might sound a bit harsh, and if you are like a huge pleaser like I am and I used to be, then it will be hard for you to set boundaries. Yes, and this might sound kind of harsh, and in some way it is, but this is what you will see in the most successful people. They are harsh and they will protect your time, and they in this sense won't care about the opinion of others. And if you are like a huge pleaser like I was and I still am, then you will have like big problems setting boundaries. Yes, and here it is like this, that we just have to discipline ourselves to just do it anyway because we know it's the right thing. And you will also figure out that at the beginning it will be easier for you to set boundaries with like people who are closer to you, like family and maybe friends, and it will be harder with strangers. This is what I figured out. And yes, so you can start practicing setting boundaries with your family and friends first, and then if you like get more comfortable with setting boundaries, you can then expand and also set boundaries with strangers who treat you poorly. Yeah, and it's very likely that if you are a person with low self-esteem and who thinks that he or she's worthless, it's very likely that you had like in the past someone told you that you are worthless, or showed you through their behavior that you are worthless, and you thought about this over and over again, even though you might not be like aware of it, and this built the belief that you might be worthless. But again, I want to emphasize that yes, your brain cannot differentiate between reality and fiction, and you only thought that what that person said about you is reality. But that's bullshit. What this person said about you, that you are worthless, this is fiction. This is not true. So here's the learning. The statements of other people have nothing to do with you. Do not let their opinion define who you are. People will always treat you in the most disrespectful way that you let them treat you. Value yourself enough to not accept any disrespect anymore. You are worthy of respect, and from now on you will demand exactly this respect from others. Part 6. The emotional state of others has absolutely nothing to do with you, but it has 100% to do with them. This was also like a very important learning that I had, because when we make a negative experience, it doesn't necessarily mean that this is like a real negative experience, but it's just that we interpret it as negative. And we also have to learn to interpret things the right way to not make so many negative experiences. What I realized was that if people act angry or aggressive towards you, this has nothing to do with you, but this is simply like an expression of their emotional state. This doesn't mean that you are a bad person, so don't let these experiences form your identity in a negative way. Let's say, for example, when a kid stands in the kitchen in the morning and the father is in a hurry, and he runs into the kid because he doesn't look, and now he spills his coffee onto his shirt, and yes, it's dirty. Now there are like two main ways he could react. He could take responsibility, like act in a neutral emotion, or express a neutral emotion and try to fix the problem, aka changing his shirt and cleaning the mess up. This would be a very positive and mature emotional state. What he could also do is he could blame the kid for standing in his way, and he could get angry and aggressive. This would be obviously a very negative and immature emotional state. So what we can see in this example is that the kid standing in the father's way is the only constant. So this means the kid is the only thing that cannot be the source of the father's anger and aggression, in case he acts angry. The source is simply his emotional state. I think this is also like a very important story, because it happens quickly that we project others' emotional reactions onto ourselves, and then we also believe that this says something about ourselves and who we are as a person, because we are the ones who triggered that emotion. But triggering an emotion is not the same as being the source of the emotion. And in order to protect our beliefs and our experiences, we have to understand that this emotional reaction of other people and this emotional reaction of the father has nothing to do with us or with the kid or with you. It is simply because of the father. The problem is the father and not the kid. Yes, this part was a little bit shorter, but I still wanted to include it because I think it is really important. At least it was eye-opening for me and important for me, because I often projected the emotional reaction of others onto myself. And yes, I hope this will also help you and open your eyes, maybe. So what is the learning? The behavior of other people says nothing about you. Do not mistake their smallness for who you are as a person. Part number 7, stop living in the past. Do you constantly live in the past? Living in the past means living with all and through all the filters that you made from past experiences and accepting them as a reality. This is all stuff that we already learned in this video. So with all the stuff that we've talked about in this video, you will probably know already why it is bad to live in the past and why you should live in the present. Because if you constantly live in the past, you will embody the same identity that you had in the past in the now, and also make the same experiences, because people, as we learned, will treat you according to your identity. And because you will make the same experiences, you will also have the same identity in the future. If you continue believing your negative thoughts from the past and don't accept them for what they are, just single instances that you can learn from, just single experiences in the past that are valuable learning lessons. If you don't accept that, and if you hold on to these beliefs, then it will be impossible to change for you. Again, the shy person who was punished in school for speaking up created the belief that his desires and he himself as a person is worthless. However, if he holds on to these beliefs and lives in the past, he will also not speak up, for example, in high school or in his job when he's treated poorly, and his beliefs will be reinforced. However, if you would live in the now, in the present, then you can control the past and you can control the future. You control the past because you understand that experiences are just feedback for your behavior in that moment in time, and has nothing to say about who you are as a person. They are valuable learning lessons about what's good and what's not so good. And you also control the future because now you exactly also know what to do and what not to do, and thereby gather more and more positive reference experiences, which then, of course, as we know, reprogram your mind and your identity and change your identity and make you a new person in the future. If the shy person would simply change his behavior and just has the balls to speak up, at some point the people will respect him and not treat him badly anymore. This will change his identity over time. This was the learning. If you completely let go of the person who you were yesterday, one new experience is enough to change your whole worldview for the good. Past experiences are just feedback for your behavior in that moment in time and not who you are. Yes, this is it. This was the video, and yes, it was a long video, and thank you if you have watched it until the end, because I know it's a long video and it's just YouTube and people don't tend to watch long videos on YouTube. I hope you liked this content, because for me it was really eye-opening, and I really believe if you take this seriously, this can change a lot for you, and yes, I hope it will. So yes, as always, let's stop talking and let's start building our dream life. So yes, I want you. So I want. Fuck.